Next up, in the world of expressions, we've got equivalent expressions. I'm blinking, I'm strobing. It's a party in here. That's why. Let's do it. Let's just get in there. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about now is kind of like vocab terms. You've heard these words. Okay. That's going to happen again in about 3 minutes, and it's going to still be annoying. Okay. We're going to talk about the words term, coefficient, constant, and like terms today. You've heard some of these terms before. I want to go over them again. They're super important. You have to know these words so you know what I'm talking about when I say them. When addition or subtraction signs separate an algebraic expression into parts, we call those a term. For example, terms are anything separated by addition or subtraction. So in this problem here, we have a 3x is a term, a 7 is a term, and this x is a term, right? So this expression here has 3 terms. That's what a term is. Anything, any of those, right? The numerical factor of a term that contains a variable is called a coefficient. Fancy word or fancy explanation for the number in front of a letter, right? And in this case, there's only one coefficient in this expression, and that is this 3 right here. We call that a coefficient. And they're really important because we're going to be diving into how to put them together here in a minute, right? So that's called a coefficient, in this case, a 3. Since this variable doesn't have a number in front of it, we would just say it's a 1, right? Because anything times 1 is itself. The next word we're talking about is a term without a variable. It's called a constant, a term without a variable. For example, this 7 doesn't have a variable with it, it's a regular number. We call that a constant. Okay? And then finally, what's kind of new here is something called like terms. Like terms are any terms that have the same variable with them. For example, this 3x and this x are like terms because they both have an x. All right? Now, if you need a quick refresher on these vocab terms, all you got to do is click that little progress bar at the bottom here, drag it backwards a little bit, and rewatch what I just said, because these words are really important if you still don't understand them. So, here we have an expression, 4n plus 2n plus 9. I want you to, in your head, or out loud, that's fine, tell me the answer to the questions I'm about to ask. First question is, how many terms are in this expression? If you said 28, you are wrong. It's definitely not 28. It's 3. There are 3 terms in this expression, right? Remember, anything separated by addition or subtraction. There's a 4n, there's a 2n, and there's a 9, right? We call those terms, and there's 3 of them. Are there any constants in this expression? A constant in this expression? And if so, what is it? The answer is yes, there is a constant in this expression. Remember, a constant is a term without a variable. In this case, the 9. This is a regular number in an expression, right? 4n and 2n are not constants. Those are variables. Are there any coefficients in this expression? Coefficients. Remember, coefficient is a number being multiplied by a variable, a number right in front of the variable. In this case, yes, there are 2 coefficients, a 4 and a 2. Not 4n and 2n. Those are the whole terms. I want the coefficient. That's just a number. 4 and 2 are coefficients. Are there any like terms in this expression? Are there any like terms? If so, how many? What are they? Yeah, there are 2 like terms in this expression. The 4n and the 2n are like terms. And they're like terms because they have the same variable. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's simplify some expressions. This is where I think expressions get kind of fun. Okay, so what I need you to do here is this problem. Okay, this problem says 4 times, because anytime a number is next to another number in parentheses, it means multiply. 4 times 6x. So imagine there's 6 x's in here. and we're going to multiply them by 4. If there were 6 x's in here and multiply that by 4, how many x's would there be? Well, 6 x's times 4 will be 24 x's, right? All those x's being added together in some big long line, but remember, we're not going to waste our time writing that. We would just write 24x, right? 6 x's times 4 would be 24 of them, so 24x, right? Or we could just look at the coefficient and multiply it, because if you really think about it, this is 6 times x times 4. And if you'll remember, the associative property says I'm allowed to, instead of doing the 6 times x first, I can do the 4 times 6 first, which is just 24, and then times the x is 24x. And that seems like a kind of simple, but it's really important to understand that process, right? 6x times 4 is 24x. You are allowed to multiply variable terms times a number, because remember, that's just showing us how many x's there are, and we can multiply however many x's there are as much as we want. We just can't add them together. How about this one? Very similar problem to the last one, actually. Very similar. Right? We've got dots showing multiplication. Hopefully you understand that now. But this could be written 3x, right? 3 times x is 3x times 11. It would just kind of be like this, right? What would 3x times 11 be? Well, very similar to the last problem that we just did. Well, 3x's times 11 would be 33x's. How would we write 33x's? Well, we just multiply the 11 times the coefficient here. 11 times 3 is 33. 33x. And that's what we're doing today, guys. We're simplifying expressions. We will not be able to actually evaluate these expressions because we don't know what the variable is. That's totally okay. That's the weird thing about algebra, remember. There's a lot of stuff we don't know. It's totally cool. We'll take it as far as we can. And this is as far as we can take it. It's 33x is there. How about x plus x plus x? Are we allowed to add variables together? If they're the same, absolutely. Right? Because it looks to me like this is repeated addition. The same thing is being added together 3 times in a row. And when the same thing is being added together, we call that multiplication, right? Repeated addition is multiplication. So x plus x is really just a lot simpler written as 3 times x, or 3x's, right? And so that would be how we simplify something like this to 3x. This one is important because now we have not just like terms like 7x and x in here, right? We also have this 8 here. So if I can, I'm going to show you guys something here, how this will look. I'm going to draw this out. It's going to be kind of annoying, but watch. 7x is really 7x is being added together, right? 7 times x is just repeated addition. So it's x. I know. It's kind of annoying. But there's 7x is being added together plus an 8 plus another x, right? So then if we look at this problem, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x's being added together. Well, there's another x too, right? So there's 8 total x's all being added together. And if you remember, the commutative property says if you're adding a bunch of stuff together, it doesn't matter what order you add it in. So couldn't you technically just switch this 8 and this x around so the x goes with all the other ones? And then how many x's then are being added together in this problem? 8 of them, right? Because we'd have 7 x's here and an x here. That's 8 total x's. And we could just write that as 8x. Now, can we add this 8 to these x's? Look at this long expression. Can we add this 8 to these x's? What would that be? No, absolutely not. You can't add 8 to x. Like look at this. 8 plus x is what? We don't know. So we don't know what x is. Okay? So this constant here, this 8, is going to be all by itself, right? It's just going to be all by itself there. And then this is, again, huge mistake people will make. They'll try to add 8 and 8 together and make 16x. Are there 16 x's in this problem? Absolutely not. There's 8 x's and a regular 8. So we have 8x plus 8. Done. Okay? Now, a great way to learn how to do this is to just look for like terms and put them together. 7x and x are like terms. So you can actually add those together. 7x plus x is 8x. And your constant there just stays the same. So you end up with 8x plus 8, and we're done. That's it. These problems are not exhaustive. How about 14y plus x plus 22y? Well, we've got parentheses around this, which tells us to do that first. But if the problem is all addition, the associative and commutative property says we can switch all this stuff around make it a little bit easier on ourselves. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use the commutative property, and I'm going to switch the 22y and the x in here. I'm going to write this as 14y plus 22y plus x, right? Now, on this, inside the parentheses, I've got 14y plus 22y. And because there's 14y's here and 22y's here, am I allowed to put those y's together? Absolutely. Those are like terms. So 14y plus 22y is 36y plus x. Now, here's an important question. Can I combine 36y plus x? They're not like terms. Can I do that to make, say, 36xy? Absolutely not. Because what I have here is 36 y's, right? I'm not going to write this out, but I could. 36 y's in a row, all being added together plus an x. There's no way for us to actually put those together, so we have to write it as a nice short way for the 36 y's, that's 36y, and then our x here is just kind of chilling too. And we don't know what they are, but we're done because we have simplified it as far as we can. We took it from this kind of messy thing going on up here to a little bit more concise down here, right? Here, try this one. 4 times 2x plus y. Well, I'm multiplying the 4 times stuff in here. And these two terms in here are not like terms, so I can't put them together. So it looks like I'm kind of stuck. Unless I remember the distributive property, which says I can take this 4 and multiply it by both things inside the parentheses. 4 times 2x is 8x plus 4 times y is 4y. And I'm done. Because I can't combine 8x's with 4y's. I just don't know what those are. You can't add them together. We don't know what they are. We can only just show that the multiplication is the repeated addition of them. 8x plus 4y, we're done. Hopefully, this is a nice little quick introduction. Guys, remember, those vocab terms at the beginning of this video are super important. If you got some questions, ask me. Otherwise, good luck.